He took a job with a company in Lincoln, Nebraska called Lincoln Labs. He had not only this extraordinary skill with math, but he had the capacity to develop relationships with people very quickly. He had great empathy. He never met a stranger, and he was an extraordinary salesman. After a year's work as a salesman, because of his commission structure, he made more money than the president of the company. The president of the company didn't like that, so they cut his commission. Mr. Kaufman didn't like that. He said, but okay, that's the way you're going to play the game. He worked harder, and the next year he also made more money than the president of the company. So they decided to cut his territory. He said, I don't think so. If I'm going to work that hard, I'm going to work that hard only for somebody that's going to treat me right. So he decided that he would quit right at that moment and start his own business. And his own business was Marion Laboratories. His name was Ewing Marion Kaufman. He decided to call it Marion because if he called it Kaufman and went in to see the doctor trying to sell pharmaceuticals, the doctor would know automatically it was Ewing Kaufman from the Kaufman Laboratories. It's a one-man shop, and I don't have much confidence in one-man shops. And he was selling a vitamin mineral supplement. And he was very successful at that. So successful that he was able to get a number of his physician clients to make an investment in his business, because they saw that this man was going to be successful at whatever it is that he set his mind to do. On one of these visits to the doctor's office, it was actually at the University of Kansas Hospital there in Kansas City, he noticed that women were coming out of the doctor's office carrying a little brown bag. And almost everyone that came out was carrying a little brown bag. So when he got the chance to see the doctor, he says, what is they carrying out in this little brown bag? The doctor says, you know, because of the nature of my practice, I see a lot of women who are pregnant. And one of the things that I've discovered is that they have difficulty in their pregnancy and they have difficulty with the child development if they don't have enough calcium. So I have found a way to give them calcium support. He said, the only way I can do it is I can grind up oyster shells. And so what they're going out with in a little bag is ground up oyster shell calcium powder. And as a result, they're not experiencing the bone loss, tooth loss that the rest of my patients had experienced as they went through pregnancy. He says, that looks like an opportunity for me. So he went and did his own research. As I said, he wasn't a college graduate. He was able to do his own research and determine that there were ways in which he could make that product more easily to take. So at night, he took ground up calcium, oyster shell calcium, and made tablets out of it. He would make the tablets at night, and he would sell in the morning and deliver tablets in the afternoon. With that, he began to build a very successful enterprise. Now, Marion was one of those overnight successes that took 40 years to build. It took 5 years before he reached the first $1 million in sales, and another 5 years before he reached the second $1 million in sales. And then he began to work on what we would call more successful kinds of compounds. He found a compound called papaver hydrochloride, a chemical entity that had been around for years, that was a peripheral vasodilator. And he discovered that, okay, if we could find a way to package that so that it's easier to take, and rather than having to take it several doses all day long, if we could develop something like sustained release technology. And they took papaver hydrochloride, developed the sustained release technology, and voila, they had a product they call Pavabid. And they began to sell that, and they sold it extremely well. This was 1950 that he'd started the company. By 1967 now, He had had the company listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and was sort of a darling of Wall Street because it was one of those up-and-coming stocks that people thought they could make a lot of money at. And he became very wealthy at that age, and he bought the franchise for the Kansas City Royals.